All right, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for joining us today. Is a budget overview. I know we were supposed to do this last week, but I know Platte Moran Gap couldn't be here with us today. We are lucky to have Michelle with us, accompanied with our comptroller, our chief of staff, and our HR department. I mean, talk about a lineup. And really, thank you guys for being here. This is simply just a dot our i's, cross our t. This is not a specific department. This is for the entire budget as a whole. We want to make sure that the budget is properly budgeted. I know that we had some ups and downs during the budget hearing. I know Platte Moran Gap couldn't be here with us. Hello. I don't know what's going on today. But we're gonna start our budget meeting. So since we got a lot of speakers, we're gonna meet that. So Michelle, I'm just gonna start off by a couple of things with you, just here in the beginning. Then I'll go over to some of the council members to go ahead and ask their questions, and then you guys can just kind of give us an overview. But I know that the budget that we initially had, the mayor was giving us $1,061 over. That was the exact number that I had written down. Just going through my notes today, I kind of just refreshed my memory so that I can ask you a couple of questions. But when we came into turn time, we realized that those numbers were not accurate. We were missing out on police officers. We were missing out on captains, sergeants. We were over budgeting on certain departments, and we didn't get an actual breakdown of, 20 command officers. This is how much we have. Instead, we budgeted a percentage, assuming that this would be enough to cover, and then we would go through budget amendments because it's a fluid document. And so my question to you, I guess, would be, I'm sure you've watched that meeting and you went through and you saw it, or you watched it on your phone while you're on your way to Disney, whichever one it was. I know that I'm sure you were able to get some of that phone time. Can you kind of just tell me how we missed the clerical numbers? Can you kind of tell me how we under budgeted on the police department? Speaking to our police chief Swope today, he told me that the numbers that we have and versus the numbers that we need they're not the right numbers. So if we were budgeting for that last year, this year, which we made more money, how is it missing significantly so much more than what he actually needs? Some of the officers that we budgeted, he said we can't even hire anybody else because the budget that we gave him is not enough. And then now if that means we want to bring on the positions that we eliminated because they didn't come before council, and we still don't have enough. So my question to you is, where are these numbers coming from? Is our budget actually balanced? Can you tell me exactly what the surplus is after we did all the changes? And can you tell me exactly what happened with the clerical 3 positions? Mm-hmm. Those are my questions. You can either answer them and we can go throughout the councils, or you can answer those and go on to the council.
So I'll start with I don't know if you can hear me. I'll start with the police ones. For the patrol officers, the budget was for 50, and then council changed that to 45.
Can you speak into the mic, just kind of eat it, or you can hold it. Hold the actual mic.
Okay.
Thank you.
Is this better?
Yeah.
Okay. So for the patrol, there were 50 budgeted positions, but then council dropped that to 45.
Correct.
Which I believe that made us understaffed at that time, which is what I'm assuming the chief was
No,
talking to you
because
about.
we're saying from what we spoke about, and mind you, many officers sent us emails and text saying we have 38 command officers. We budgeted 50, so we brought it down to 45 so that we can still hire. Because I heard we had 3 or 4 in the academy, and if we wanted to hire more, we'd want to be budgeted for it. So I think the number 45 is fair, and we needed that to kind of, because we missed the 4 sergeant positions that we didn't budget for, because we only budgeted 12, but really we were missing 6, right?
We budgeted for 14, but they're half 20.
Yeah.
Between sergeant, lieutenants, and captain.
19, because of captain.
I mean, after I spoke to the chief, I guess we missed some.
Yeah,
another,
even
so
during
it's
the
20.
meeting, we missed some, he said.
Yeah, so it's all together is 20 command officers.
So we've got it at 19, so you're saying that the chief said it should be 20?
Correct.
Well, and
Is the chief on
captain
Zoom by
is-
any chance?
Hang on.
The captain's a different line item. So
Yes.
we do
He's-
have it as a different line item in the budget, in the personnel page. So we have the 19 command, and then a captain is a separate line.
Okay.
Go ahead, I'm sorry, so what was the next piece of that?
Well, my question was, how did we make such a big mistake?
So what
I mean, with all due respect, Shannon, or
No, it's
Michelle, like, we are paying top of the line amount of money to this company. You know, this isn't like a small, 50, 100, or $50,000 mistake. This was a $500,000, $600,000, $700,000 mistake.
So when you look at the numbers, what the numbers I had to begin with, there were 43 officers, patrol officers. We budgeted to fund 7 more, which brought it up to the 50. And then the command, we had 14 at the time we did the budget. And as you know, because it took the almost 3 months to do the budget, to finalize the budget, the 5 were promoted. Now, I didn't know that the 5 were promoted between April and June. So,
In January, February, they were promoted.
Yes.
we
were
took
swearing in.
the number as of 3/31, and there were 43 officers at 3/31, and there were 14 command at 3/31. So we took exact number of people.
I think you were missing some, because I think the budget had 12 for the command. Then we said, no, we're missing 4. Then when we start adding them,
It
it
went
was
to
16. Then
16.
we had to add 3 more to get them to 19.
Yeah, because when we budgeted the actual budget on the actual 29th.
Yeah, sure.
Hang on one second, Mariana, please. When we budgeted the day of the actual 29th, the actual budget hearing that we did, or was it the 31st?
It was the 29th.
It was the
yes.
29th day, so June 29th, before going in, it was a Friday. We budgeted that day for 16. We left that day, I met with the police chief, and he said, no, we're actually at 20. So we left that day with budgeting 16.
So you left that day with 19.
16.
No,
19 because the captain.
it was 12 and we added 4.
Then there was the lieutenants also.
The number that I heard during the meeting was you had 14, you added 5.
No.
And that's what you have there, right?
So we have 3 lieutenants and 16 sergeants that
Correct.
were
There was 12
approved at the
sergeants on the budget.
last. Currently, there are 16 sergeants and 3 lieutenants.
Mariana, sorry, but the day we went in the room to adjust it, there was 12 listed on the budget. We made the change to 16 sergeants.
Yeah, she's agreeing with that.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, but they're saying that we added 3 more on top of the 16.
So the
We didn't.
lieutenants
3
were-
lieutenants,
Lieutenants were already budgeted for, that's a separate line item.
and then
No, I'm
16.
talking
No,
about
it
the
wasn't.
sergeants.
The
It
captain was,
wasn't.
the lieutenant.
You're right.
Captains were.
You're
The
right, that is
captain is a
correct.
separate line item, yep.
She's correct, the councilman's correct. So there wasn't 16 plus the 3 plus the 1
It
captain.
was 12.
It was 12, we added 4, the other 3 were recently just done.
Because we learned that day that the sergeant makes about 97 and the lieutenant makes about
108.
Yeah, so-
So I have the budget from last meeting. So we had 14
14.
total in command officers. It's just that we
Yeah.
broke it apart into the different lieutenant and sergeants during the council meeting.
So they're still off.
14 total, and then we brought it up to 19.
No.
No,
That-
we brought it up to.
We were at 12.
No,
No, we were at
19
14.
total, because the 3 and the 16.
No.
Yeah,
Hold on.
we started at 14 command officers.
So this is what we presented at the final.
Yes,
meeting.
right.
Yes.
And then they brought it up to 16 sergeants and 3,
Correct.
which is 19.
Yes.
I want to make it clear, we were at 12.
I'm
We-
looking at the actual numbers that were in the backup.
I have it written down as well,
Down,
Mariana.
12.
Again, it's in the backup of what was in the presentation. You can check with the clerk's office.
I will.
The
I think
numbers
she's
didn't
right. There was
change.
12 sergeants and 2 lieutenants. Then we had to add 4 sergeants and 1
They were
lieutenant.
combined 14.
Right, but
Yes.
if you add them together, it's 14.
14, yeah. So
Yes.
12 sergeants, 2 lieutenants, then we added 4 sergeants. and
Correct.
Another lieutenant.
Yes, so
Correct.
19 total. So you added 5 from the
Correct.
patrol to the command. So it's just a move up.
Which was a higher pay, which means,
It is a higher pay.
yeah.
Yep.
Which means we needed to find a budget to kind of balance all that out.
Absolutely. Yep.
Okay.
Yep. And since the budget is a fluid document, things that happen after April 1st, I don't get notifications every time somebody moves to a different different
That's a
level.
lot of money that we can't account for when it comes down to making,
Understandable.
renewing a budget. And then there was, back to the question, to another question is, the police department is nearly short almost $1 million that we didn't remove out of the budget.
So after speaking with,
Hold on, Council Chair, I'm sorry. And there was notices put out there and statements made that we defunded the police department, and that's not true. And speaking to the chief, someone moved that money around, and I want to know where that money went. Because if not, we're gonna deduct that money from somewhere.
I'm not sure what you're referring
There's
to.
$980,000 missing from the police department budget.
Missing?
It disappeared.
From when to when?
That's something you would have to ask, to answer to us.
I've not heard any questions.
so
about-
so let me kind of help out here, Councilman. After speaking with our police chief, the budget that you guys presented to us and the budget that former police chief Swope and
No, Hart.
I'm sorry, forgive me, current police chief Swope and former police chief Hart presented to you guys was different than what you guys presented to us,
Correct.
okay? And so his thing was, so now the misconception was, I don't know, maybe the administration went back and said, oh, council cut it. No, we didn't. Council didn't cut anything. So then the rumors started going around from certain like dispatchers and police officers. If you have an issue, go contact your city council member. They cut our TSA or they cut, our TSP. Which I don't think, Councilman, did any of us here say we don't want to support traffic? I don't think that was ever the case. So whatever they presented to you guys and whatever the administration cut was the reason why the budget was cut from the police department. It wasn't the city council. City council asked them to cut $75,000 from overtime, which we didn't know that the administration had already cut $900,000 from them. So then, to them, I can understand where the frustration and why kind of Police Chief Swope said, hey, like $75,000 is a lot of money to us. You've already cut $980,000.
So where's that money?
So as you recall, at the beginning, we were short $1.9 million. So we went through and every single department had to have cuts.
So every department took up, but the most important department in the city, public safety, you guys took 90% of that money out of there?
Not 90%.
That's $1 million, we were down $1.9 million.
I have to look at the budget that was
To be honest with you, I don't think so. We
requested.
met with Michelle and we went over the 1.9 million that it wasn't the police department, so.
Remember, we said the police and fire were not going to be touched.
Yeah.
I don't think they were, but I just want to pull up what was requested
Correct.
versus recommended.
Their budget they submitted, if I'm not mistaken, was like 1.9, right?
No, I don't know.
1.8.
Well, we wouldn't know. The administration would know.
Who? The original budget that was submitted by the police department was how much?
16 million, I think.
No.
Sorry, I gotta pull it. So this was recommended.
Michelle, while you're doing that, can you kind of just tell me while we started, I'm sorry.
No.
Do you know what our surplus currently stands at?
$177,000.
But that number is inaccurate.
Well, that is the number that you passed.
That's the number
so-
that we passed, but that
Yes.
number's not accurate.
Okay, we can go through,
Yeah.
for sure. This is what.
Did anybody can get the police chief online?
It's not, he asked me today and I said this wasn't, this was why I requested.
Okay, so the requested budget was,
8,389,000.
no, right here. The first recommended budget that came before you was $16,224,149.
The total.
No, the
What-
difference.
So are you interested in salaried budget or the
So what
whole
was the
budget?
overall budget that was passed?
The overall budget that was passed was $15,889,961.
15,889.
961.
Yeah, but this is after you remove 3 positions, Councilman, so.
That
No,
is,
no, I know.
that
I
is
understand.
Has nothing to do with your 900,000 you're talking about.
So no,
Whatever.
I'm trying to figure out where, I understand the 3 positions we added, but there's a whole,
Yeah, no, I'm saying the difference between 16.2 and the 15.8, that's the 3 position.
Right.
That we,
And some
so
of
it
the
has nothing to do with
overtime.
whatever you're asking for.
What it's
Yeah.
saying, the 980,000 was eliminated originally from the 16 million, not from the 15.
Before we see it.
Yeah.
Right, that's what I'm trying to say, where did that money go? Where else, like, where is it?
Well, they probably balanced up the entire city council budget.
What else did you take from since
So
we
he's
were-
asking about the requested budget
Yeah,
for the police
no,
department. What
that-
was the requested budget?
The requested budget was,
16 million?
hold on.
It was more.
No, when they first requested,
Yes.
it was, hold on, sorry. This is the one. I don't know why there we go. 19,226.
There you go. That's what your number
Now, that
is.
amount includes every single position that could possibly be filled in the police department. Also, it includes 1.5 million of overtime. It also includes capital outlay that we eliminated from everybody. So those were the major cuts right there. So that's the whole difference.
What was what did they use last year?
As their budget
Yeah.
last year. Their budget was 14,959,
So we're giving them an
14,959,959.
So last year they used 14 million, what is it?
958,397 actually.
558, 397?
Yep.
So 14,558,397. What did we give them this year?
16.2.
16, yep.
So that's another almost 1.3 million extra.
149.
Yep.
16.
224,
149.
149.
What are we at right now for them?
16.
16,224.
No, I thought we were into 15, you said.
No.
No.
What was before?
What did we approve?
Yeah, the
What-
fif-
I'm sorry, what you were, I'm
Yeah,
sorry, what
we
you were
approved the
approved?
15.8, you're
The
right.
15,889,
Which is the three positions.
yes,
15,889.
961. And that's the removal of the three and
That's still
the
over
overtime.
almost $1 million.
Okay, so actually the budget was actually still over $1 million from last year, so I don't,
Yeah.
there's a little bit of discrepancy here.
Big
because-
time.
Keep in mind, there were salary increases for all the
I know.
positions as well, so a
Yeah.
big chunk of that is the increases that were approved through the union contract negotiation process.
Council members, I think Chief of Staff was saying something important. It's whatever the new contract that with the salary increases, that made a big difference of where the budget is going.
From the 14 to the 15.
I think Councilman Saab, are you talking about the overtime going from 1.5 million to 925? That's why?
The overtime too, but that's a portion. But again.
But keep in mind too, we have
you
more
gotta remember,
officers this year than
administration
last
and
year.
the old police chief put out such a false statement, and I want to justify where that statement came from. And there's no justification for
I
it.
mean, this is the justification that now their budget's $1 million X more than last
No,
year,
I think
so.
you're not understanding the councilman. The councilman's saying the mayor, the mayor and the police chief said that the council's defunding the police
Correct.
department. Here, if you're looking at these numbers, last year they got 14,558,000.
And this year they get 15.8.
This year they're getting, they got 16,224,149. We eliminated three positions because they didn't go through the proper policy and procedure, so they got 15,889,961. So in conclusion, they're still getting the additional $1 million, more, 1.3.
This is to prove we didn't cut their budget, we added $1 million on their budget, so whatever they're saying, whatever was said is not correct.
Can you agree to that? We didn't defund the police department?
So I think that there is a lot of information to unload in that statement. So first of all, the three positions were hired through the legal process and procedure. It was authorized through
No,
the
it was
union.
not.
It was not.
It was authorized through the union. It was negotiated into the contract to separate those positions. It was done through,
Those positions were not, it said you can hire a current position by eliminating a clerical position. It never said you can have the crime analysis, you can have this position, and you can have that position. It's not. I looked through it, Mariana. If you can pull it up for me.
Even, does the union speak for the council too now, or?
Well,
sorry,
technically,
the council authorizes the budget. It's up to the administration to decide how that department is staffed. Again, this was made due to cost
Not under
allocations
Councilman
because a
Saab's new resolution.
lieutenant, yeah, this current budget, it's different. Last year, it was a separate situation, and this was done in last year. And even with that, anyway, I'm just clarifying. So the decision for those three positions to become non-union was for a cost benefit reason, so that we wouldn't have to be paying high salaries to lieutenants to do a job that clerical employees and civil employees can be doing. So that's why those three positions were done. That's why the union agreed to those additions to the positions to be outside of the union. So as far as them being done outside of the process, they were completely done within the process allowed by the council.
Mariana.
By the charter.
So the lieutenant's position, just out of respect, I honestly think your statement is a bit false, because lieutenants don't go on the road. They're never on the road. They're not out pulling people over. They're administrative. They're in there. For the past decades, lieutenants have done these jobs, like in records, we had a lieutenant. FOIAs, there was a lieutenant. Now all of a sudden, you guys are saying that we're paying extra. I'd like you to show me the records that we were paying them so much extra in different salaries to fill these other positions too.
I mean, they're in the office and doing administrative work regardless.
So your statements that you guys are, the statements that are being said that these lieutenants, we're paying them double. or-
Not double. I'm
Not
just saying
double,
it's a
we're paying
cost
extra
effective.
salaries to them for something else because we're taking them off the roads, false.
Council.
Again, I'm just trying to-
Roger, don't interrupt. Thank you.
Hey,
Council
point of order,
Chair,
Roger,
of any
point of order.
false
Roger, point of
allegations.
order.
Stop,
Please,
stop
No,
interrupting,
I
man.
have right to
Roger,
speak
point of
on legal
order.
issues
I don't
per the
care.
charter.
Roger, please,
And if
point
you
of order,
want to bring
Roger.
this up, fine.
Roger, please, point of order.
Just get
Roger,
Evan
please,
Swope,
point
the
of
chief,
order,
on the
Roger.
phone. Thank you.
Roger, please, point of order. Roger, if you're gonna keep doing this, I'm gonna
Narrative
ask you to
is-
leave.
Please. No, I have a right to be here.
You're
just
right,
like
then
you
you-
do,
don't interrupt
okay?
us.
Guys, Councilman, Roger, if you're gonna continue to disrespect the council chambers, I'm gonna ask you to, you can stay in here,
I
but you're gonna have
talked
to sit
you,
out there.
Council Chair.
Roger, please,
Thank you.
if you do that again, I'm gonna ask you to, you can sit out there as an audience.
Council
Please,
Chair, can I
please,
address
Roger.
you? Or if not, if you don't want to
Roger,
address
please,
you,
I
that's
don't
fine.
need it.
Okay, fine,
Thank
you
you.
don't need it. You don't
I'm not
need the
seeking your
advice.
legal
That's fine.
advice. It's a study session. Please stop. Thank you. Councilman, continue.
Can I clarify the question?
Yes.
Sorry. Again, so the reason that those positions became civilian is simply because of a cost savings reason. So again, yes, you're correct. A lieutenant used to do this position. Lieutenant salaries, as you have in front of you, make $102,060 on average. This FOIA coordinator, who has the same roles and responsibilities that the lieutenant used to have, makes $66,300.
What's the lieutenant
So-
doing now?
What's the lieutenant doing now? Drinking coffee all day?
They're overseeing actual police matters that,
Like?
you would have to ask the chief specifically for that, but they are doing police work. That is not a clerical position, overseeing clerical staff.
Did we have filled this with a clerical position? Like a clerical 3 position?
Not necessarily. They require a lot of training,
I don't
to
think our
go
clerical
through.
3 that have experience with us are incompetent.
They are helping, again, and that's why we did
Yeah.
expand the records department and added 2 additional positions. They are helping with all records because the records department and the requests have increased throughout the years. All FOIA requests are increasing. Now that we have the body cams, the editing of those recordings is increasing. So again, we are expanding the
True.
department. It does require training, and a lot of them are getting training with a lot of the information. But again, the FOIA coordinator is supervising all of those employees and the work that they're doing, just because they have more experience or more training in that area.
Thank you, Mariana. I do want you to know that a couple of clerical 3 employees that have been with the city for 20-plus years have already reached out and said, Mo, we wish we could do these jobs. We would do them. And we've been with the city for 20 years. So you got to understand something. Where I'm speaking from right now, I don't care if it's a civilian position. Well, actually, I do now. I'd rather it be a clerical 3 position or somebody that's worked with our city for the last 20 years that we can move around and bring somebody there rather than bringing in from the outside and saying, well, hey, we're going to give this to somebody. I'm just telling you the phone calls that I've received from our city employees have said, Mo, I'd love to do this job. They never wanted me to do it.
They're getting the training for it. Again,
Right.
when the lieutenant retired, we didn't have anybody with the skills at the time to fulfill those jobs. A lot of them are getting the training in a lot of the software that's necessary for these requests, and a lot of them are doing a good job. But again, they need a supervisor. They need somebody to guide them on the process to make sure it's being done correctly.
So
And
who's the supervisor?
Council
the
Chair.
FOIA coordinator was the supervisor. Right now, it is back to
So
being a
how does
lieutenant.
this, FOIA coordinator become a supervisor right off the bat?
It was hired under the civil
Roger, stop
service.
interrupting.
Councilman, calm down.
Come on, man. Every time I see something, you interrupt.
I know. Roger, please stop. Unless you're being called on, please don't speak anymore.
As soon as he
Please,
finishes, please.
As soon as unless you're being called on, Roger, you want to speak here as a resident, you're more than welcome.
Excuse me, I'm
Roger, please,
asking
point
the
of order.
question.
Please.
You don't want to
we're in the
answer,
middle
you
of a
don't want to
discussion.
answer.
Please, thank you. Thank you, Roger.
So again, the FOIA coordinator went through
Roger,
a
please
civil
stop it.
service process where they had to have the experience and the accreditation to have that experience to be the coordinator. And that's how it was done, with the approval of the union and the civil service.
Any other questions, Council?
Yes.
Go ahead. Well, don't forget, we have Councilman Wenzel as well, who has some questions, and I believe some of the other councilmen. Yes, sir.
I told you I had to.
Yeah, so can I get Councilman?
Go ahead.
You can add that escalator was the confidential secretary position. Was that filled? No?
That position was unfunded when we passed the budget, so it was never hired. It is still necessary, but it is unfunded at the
So there's
moment.
nobody working as the confidential secretary today?
No.
How many people do we have working inside the HR department, aside from our HR director?
I do have the HR specialist, and then we have had a part-time assistant for, 2 years now? At this point, she normally is around 20 hours.
So two full-time, one
Correct,
part-time.
yep.
So you have the HR director, the HR specialist, and now a part-time employee?
Correct, yep, and she's been with us for
Is that
quite a
part-time
while.
employee going to be there for 6 months and then leaving, or are they going to be with us for as long as we want to keep them as part-time? Because the rule is there's 6 months and then they got to be moved around. I know
So,
Mariana's saying no, but I mean, that does not apply like every other job, that's 6 months?
so we do have we have the ability to do 3 positions that are capped at 20 hours. They're considered a permanent, part-time, position, and she is one of them.
Nice. He's our new HR director.
Hello.
Oh, I know, I said the same thing.
You want to introduce yourself, by the way, so that, for those at home know, who our new HR director
Yeah.
is? Please.
I'm Cameron Egley, the new HR director. I've been with the city for, 2.5 years now as the HR specialist.
Cameron is the future of our city.
Okay.
Cameron was promoted into the HR position on July 1st when Margaret left us.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
And I'm sorry, I confused him. I thought he's the controller's deputy for secondary.
Your last name is, say it again?
This is going to be on YouTube, right?
Egley.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Or Zoom.
Yeah.
You have any more questions before you get going?
You guys were talking about the police one. That was my other one.
Well, just ask anything else before you leave.
All the questions were already asked.
Okay. Well, what are your concerns, Councilman, so we know?
Well, it's the correct number of the police department staff, in all categories. Do we have a definitive answer to that? That's what I want to know.
Turn on your mic, please.
Yeah, okay.
Angela just told him. I just told him.
My concern was the funding of the police department. It kept going up and down and, deducting money and the missing money from the budget. Councilman Saab was saying that's a question that I was made aware of, and I don't think they've answered that yet. From, the 900,000, what happened to that? It was deducted from the budget without council approval, obviously, I'm pretty sure. And the final budget was it 15 million? Is that what it was, 15,800,000? There's a lot of questions about the police department. They're all being brought up right now, but the exact number of employees, what we're budgeting for, what we should be budgeting for. I mean, should we be budgeting for hiring more? Because I heard there's enough cadets or whatever in the pipeline to fill all the positions, right? And are we budgeting for that?
So we are not currently budgeting for that. We had recommended to budget for the additional 5 that we assumed we were going to be able to fill those extra 5 patrol positions. So it was recommended.
Do you know how many command officers we have, Mariana?
Currently,
38. I'll answer it
Not
for you.
command, the patrol.
I mean,
Patrol.
patrol officers, 38. We budgeted 45. That's an additional 7, Mariana. So if you have 5 more, we budgeted for additional 2.
so according to one of the directors, recent numbers from July 1st, we currently have
Do we have multiple
37.
directors, or do we have one director currently?
Sorry, we have one director.
Okay, so Director Vanderplow?
So we have 37 current patrol officers, 39 current patrol officers.
Okay, so we budgeted 6 for her. So we covered the 5, and we're budgeting 1 additional person.
Right, but again, we were expecting to fill up to the 50 that were
How many officers did we
requested.
hire last year?
I do not have that information.
You don't know how many we hired based on the
HR's
budget
here.
from last year?
He can try to look into it.
I mean, I'm sorry, Mariana, even when we talked to the chief, those 5 or 6 officers, they're in the process. It's going
So
to
it
take
could
about
take up
6
to-
months.
Yes,
Yeah,
again,
so
we assumed we were
By that time, we
going
have a new
to fill
budget to approve,
those.
so we're fine now with the 45, to be honest with you.
So,
Okay.
so when you guys say like we took away, we didn't take away anything. You said like, oh, we didn't budget for them. We did budget for them. So.
You budgeted
I-
for 50,
Hang
we
on,
corrected the
Councilman,
numbers.
Councilman, hang on. We have to choose our words carefully, because I have, we went through this meeting, and if you, to my recollection and anything that I have written down, and I have our, Madam Clerk bringing up the notes that she took and George took from that meeting, 38 was the number. And I'm seeing, you know, and I believe probably Director Vanderplau's number are probably a little bit more accurate than the numbers that I got from some of the police officers. But the numbers that we got was 38. You were in that room, Mariana, where we said we still want a budget for anybody that's coming in. So we'll go to 45. That gave 7. So now we're saying 39. We gave 6. So we're still budgeting 6 additional officers, which also, with when meeting with Police Chief Swope, he said, you won't even have those 6 potentially this year. You won't even see them until next year's budget.
Agree. Yep. Now, with regards to the other positions in the police department, I do recommend that we increase the dispatcher position because, again, that was one of those that
That
we
was another
didn't
thing
know
that was-
we
I
had.
asked on that inside.
Yeah, that was
So-
another thing that Police Chief Swope said, that you guys said that, you know, we're budgeting, we have 8 full-time, we're budgeting 8. He told me, you guys have 12.
Yeah, and again, this happened because they were hired past the deadline when we had gathered the numbers. So I do recommend that we increase those dispatch positions to,
Councilman Chair.
So we want a budget addition, so how many do we have budget for right now?
8.
So how many more do we need to budget for? Mind you, you know, just so you know, Michelle, we made up numbers on like the longevity and health insurance and all that stuff.
Yeah, the longevity, you don't have to worry about until the next year's budget at least, until, you know, that hits, when they stay long enough.
So our 177 is not accurate number, is what I'm trying to tell you.
Sure.
So are we gonna ever have an accurate number?
So because the budget is a fluid document, you're
we have-
constantly going to have people leaving, you're constantly going to have people coming on. It will, if I can give you a number today, it will change tomorrow. I absolutely
I know,
guarantee
but
it.
right now, you came in here, said we're over 177.
Yep.
We are not, though.
The budget you approved is over 177. Things could have changed between now and
Well, they can't because
Then-
we've never done any budget amendment.
yes. However, circumstances would have changed. For example, you know, your dispatchers. As of May, those weren't hired. I verified with the HR director when we did the police budget, those were not hired. It happened in that last month. So that happens. And tomorrow, 4 of them could quit.
But we're still budgeting for them.
Absolutely, absolutely. So that's why what we recommend is that you monitor your budget and amend it, at least quarterly.
So,
I've talked to Shannon. She is very experienced in municipalities, which is amazing. And she is prepared to come to you with budget amendments and budget to actuals. Every month, you will have your budget to actual, you will have your
today's
amendments
meeting
in
was
pre-quarter.
actually, I put a motion forward to amend the budget an additional 750,000. And that's the goal. And so my goal was to chop it off of Ferns to eventually get more in-house employees for the comptroller's office, whatever we need. So we're gonna start, after this, there's the whole purpose of this meeting was to deduct another $750,000 from the budget.
Do we want to continue the police conversation with
Yes,
the other
but-
positions?
yep.
And then get to that?
Go ahead.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Go ahead.
Before we move on, Mariana, I just want to, I know, Michelle, you mentioned something about the recommended budget was 16,224. But whatever I have here says 16,149,959. So which
So-
one is more accurate?
So what I mentioned was the first budget that came before you in April 1st.
Okay.
Yeah, but once we got done cutting and moving things around, it got to 16,149.
Okay, thank
Yep,
you.
you're welcome.
Chief of Staff, please go ahead.
All right. So we were discussing the dispatchers. So we're currently budgeted for 8 dispatchers. We're currently staffed at 9.5. We should be staffed at 13.
Okay, I'm sorry, you said we budgeted the new budget for 8?
Correct,
Okay,
asked that
and we have
inside the room.
9.5? One second.
correct.
So
we
we're
had-
under budget for that too. So we're already, the 1.77 is not accurate, like Councilman Chair said,
Correct.
okay?
And again, these are things that happened between the time that we had the
Okay.
numbers of staffing to where we are
Wow.
now.
So any idea how much of a budget increase do they need? 1.5?
1.5, what are you talking about?
Because it's a part-time.
No, it's 13, do you want?
No, for now, whatever we have right now, like people
Yeah,
are
we have,
paying.
you're right, we have 1.5.
1.5, yeah. Before we're adding more people, we need to make sure we can pay the people that we have right now. Any idea?
For 1.5, it's 86,900.
So I'm gonna pull up my phone to use the calculator.
And this is, you said we don't have to worry about the longevity for them till next year, or they've been here?
So they have to be here for some time, at least a year, until the longevity.
So the 1.5 we're talking about, they just got hired or they've been here? They just got hired?
So that will bring the budget down to $90,600 out of the 177.5. Correct?
I want to be accurate in the
Okay.
177,
5, right.
was it 500
Yep.
even?
Yeah, so this is,
Minus 86.9 brings you 90,600.
and if we need to add another 3.5 to bring it up to 13 dispatchers, because now we're at 9.5. She wants it to be 9.5. That's another, right?
Well, right, that would be extra, but those are positions that aren't
not here yet.
filled yet. So again,
But she's asking
things, right.
to amend the budget to have them. I mean, I don't think anybody on council would be against adding dispatchers or adding more police officers or even adding the 3 positions that we eliminated, but can you help us come up with the money somehow? So this is the million-dollar question. I mean, do we have the money to bring those positions back?
So we can look into it, but just on top of my mind, just so that you are aware, when we added the additional ordinance officer during the last meeting, I didn't realize that we had actually already hired the 3 additional ones, so we can cut one of those, because I don't think you meant to hire 4 ordinance officers, you just wanted 3, but by mistake, we ended up adding 4 instead of
No,
3.
we didn't actually. In that last meeting, remember, we calculated, we had 1 and we only added 2 people, so I added it to 3.
So that was the mistake. We had already accounted for the 3 when we added that additional one, it
Oh,
made it
then I
4.
spoken to Michelle, we had only left 1, and she said, I will have those numbers for you ready when you want me to make that change. And in the budget, see, going into the meeting, I had already had that conversation with Michelle. We had only budgeted for 1. She said, when you requested for 2, because administration is only giving you the 1, I will have those numbers ready for you. Do you remember that conversation, Michelle?
Do, we only took 1 away, so we'd only removed 1 ordinance officer, correct?
We
But
only
I
had,
thought currently we're budgeted for 4 ordinance officers by mistake.
no.
But we can
I think
verify
we're
the
only
numbers with
budgeted
that.
for 3.
Well, regardless, we can look into finding the money. Let's continue with the
Yeah, but I don't want you to
conversation
cut
and see
through-
how
yeah,
much.
I don't want us to cut through that and start saying, well, we budgeted for 4. That's not what happened. And looking at the numbers when we added it that day, and to our notes here, we only budgeted for 1.
Okay. Again, we can look into that, but there were a few mistakes that we did catch afterwards, and we can go through them.
Council Chair,
when we
just to
have
bring
them.
you up to date when you were out, so we approved the budget for 8 dispatchers, but we actually, we have 9.5 that's been hired. So we're already, we're down 86,900. So like you said, the 177
Was a false number.
was a false number, correct?
We're down to
So,
90,600.
and they need to bring them up to 13 dispatchers, so we're still missing. So we need to amend it to 9.5 plus add 3.5 more.
I think it was, Police Chief Swope said it was 12 that was needed total.
Correct.
So and we're already at 9.5, but we only budgeted for 8, so where are we getting the rest of the money to pay the rest of them?
That's what I'm saying.
And that is why they were originally cut to what we were currently staffed, and we figured that as positions get filled, we can continue to amend the budget
You
on a
guys cut
quarterly
it to 8,
basis.
we didn't.
Correct. Correct, because we were requested to cut $1.9 million of the budget, and the way to do that was not to cut positions, but to cut vacant positions. And that's what was done at the time.
Okay, so can you properly budget this so that, and bring that budget amendment for only the dispatchers, since that's the only thing we've agreed to so far?
So do you want the 9.5 that we just discussed, or do you want it the
I think
12?
we should at least have 10 for now,
10?
you know? I think 10 is the fair number.
Well, let's make sure we have the money.
Well, I mean, we have 177. Do the
No,
math.
we have 90,600.
Well, that's adding to the 9.5. If we take up another half, I think you still have the money in there.
How much
How
would
much
be
would the
for
half
2
be?
more?
Let's go for the half, so go to 10 total.
So 2 more.
Well, no, we're at 9.5.
86.9, divide that by 2,
It's 115,
150.
866 is the total for two.
Subtract that from 177.
115.
115, 866. And
177, minus.
the ordinance that you approved on the 29th, I don't want to interrupt him.
How much?
We have $61,000 surplus.
600. 14.
Okay. The ordinance that you approved on the 29th, it was an additional 4 that,
Oh.
well, that, I don't know how it ended up the additional 4, but,
I don't believe that.
okay.
I'm sorry.
I mean,
We're
Mariana
looking at
can
the
show you.
numbers.
I know, and I don't have those numbers in front of me.
Yeah.
And the numbers
And
that
I-
we initially gave, that was not those numbers.
No,
So.
it was not.
Yeah, so
Yeah,
so
but
why
it-
did we leave out of here making an adjustment to anything else without us just being approving this?
It
Because the
was,
numbers-
it was, so again, like, from the numbers that we were presenting on the 29th, what the budget was, I made all the highlights of the items. I didn't realize that the 3 ordinance positions were already in there. I was under the same understanding as you and Michelle, that we had only budgeted for 2. I didn't realize that the
Can you
3 were
mirror the
already
screen
there.
on what you're looking at? And then can you pull up the entire budget for the, and Madam, actually, I have the email that you sent us for the budget from the day of the 29th.
I think, Council Chair, we need the personnel page updated for the budget.
It wasn't updated.
No? There you go.
I just don't have the one that was proposed before.
Awesome. Email you this. Sends to you as well.
Do you have the one that we said for approval?
I think here's the budget that was supposed to be it. And you can see the numbers that were adjusted and changed. And here is the budget in an Excel. And Michelle, I will send it to you as well so that you can pull it up. And this was sent to me directly from Mariana. And you will see that we only budgeted for 3 positions of this.
Where did you send
I sent it to your
email?
email.
Sorry, Mo, which budget are you looking at?
I'm looking at the budget that when we left out of here, you sent me an email on that same day. It was actually the 28th, exactly at, you sent it to myself, Councilman Ahmad, the clerk, George, Mayor Bill Bazzi, and Roger Farina. And then I shared it over with Brian Sneer the following day. And this was sent to us on June 28th. On June 28th at, doesn't give me the time. I'm sorry, I don't know why. But this was the day of the budget, and you sent me the actual budget day. And if you look at, and I sent it to you, Michelle. If you look there,
Just now.
and if you want, I can send you council meeting one. And I'll send it to you as well, Shannon. Shannon, I think this is the first email I send you. Mariana, I'll send it back to you since you shared it with me. I sent you another one, Michelle. And this is from the actual council meeting as well.
So I think we need to compare between the recommended budget before and after we added the three.
Okay, 1 second, I'm sorry.
There isn't. We never budgeted for, four additional, ordinance officers.
Okay, so I see it. But regardless, we did end up budgeting for 4 rather than 3. It was our mistake during the day.
But what I'm trying to say is so you don't have that additional 4 officers, because you sent me this on the 28th, and I reviewed it the night you sent it to me.
So what we approved does have the additional 4. So that's what I'm trying to explain. There's a mistake in what was approved.
But then you guys changed those numbers.
Again, it happened that night, and it was by mistake. What you have in there doesn't have any of the amendments that we made that night. That's what was originally proposed, but that doesn't have the changes that happened during the meeting.
During the meeting, we didn't change adding additional 4 officers. I promise you we did not. And if you did do that, then you'd be a lot shorter in this budget. You had $1,000 surplus. You're not going to have all these positions, all these things, and then add 4 additional people and think you're still going to have
So
$177,000.
it was just 1 extra of the
Numbers don't
ordinance
lie.
officers. So again, we were budgeted for 3, we added an additional ordinance officer by
But
mistake.
it doesn't show that in the one that you sent me. Are you saying
I'm telling you that's what was approved in the budget, and that is what we currently
So you didn't approve
approved.
4 additional, now you're saying it's 1.
So it was 1 in addition to the 3. That's what I'm saying. That's what I've been saying all along.
No, you
We-
said it
Because
was 4 to the additional 3.
we said 4 instead of 3. I said 4 instead of 3, or at least that's what I meant to say. It's 4 instead of 3.
How much is that position, the fourth position?
That's 47,968. So I was trying to find you a little bit of money, and that's a place where we can find a little bit.
47,000.
Can you show me, Michelle, on here where we budgeted for it?
Well, Mariana has the budget up, so if you can go to the actual budget that we
47,968.
approved. And Department 426.
When do we plan on hiring these officers?
So, right there, the 617,733 on the first line there, you see that? Okay, if you go to the personnel page, that's for 9 officers. See that bottom total wages, 617,333? So that's for 9 wages. So somehow during the deliberations on the 29th, a 9 was entered there. If you look in that column, 9 instead of the 8 that should have been 5 plus 3.
You know what I think that tells us? That's a sign from God to have more ordinance officers. I mean, really, I think an ordinance officer is extremely important. I think the growing tall grass, I think that's extremely important. If you read every single comment on social media, my neighbor's house doesn't take care of their stuff, my neighbor's, the renter that's there, the neighbor to the right, it's like nonstop. So, maybe that was a sign. I don't know. I like 9. 9 is my favorite number anyways.
Well, that's what you approved.
Yeah, I just wanted to clarify that
But
is
we'd
what
have
we
to do
ended
a
up
budget
approving.
amendment to remove the 9th. You can't just take away the 9th.
Correct.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Also, Cameron did pull the amount of police officers that were hired.
In 2023, we hired 11. So far in 2024, we have 2 hired with 3 that have accepted. They're going through the background check.
Exactly what the
and
police
things
chief
like
told
that.
us.
Yep.
Thank you, Cameron. So our numbers are about what we stated was correct. And I know that, and not to like poke the bear, we hired 11, but we also lost potentially 11. So like it was just robbing Peter and paying Paul. So it's not like our budget was going up, oh, we have to go up an additional 11. No, because this, the speculation was we lost 30, we brought on 11, we're still short 5, whatever that number is. What I'm saying is the amount that we budgeted for regular officers has always been the same, if not less.
All right, sorry, I may have missed some questions. Which questions?
My next question was-
Actually, no, sorry. So we went through dispatch, we went through patrol. Command officers, we are short by 2 command officers.
Sergeants?
That-
Are we still short?
Yeah. We have a sergeant here. Can you tell me how many sergeants we have in the police department currently? You don't have to answer if you don't want.
Sorry, HR is looking into it, so I'm getting these numbers from him, so I trust him more.
Oh,
16? Thank you. I trust
got
him as
5
well.
chiefs, 13 lieutenants. Nobody knows what we got.
How many lieutenants?
We have 16 sergeants.
So we do have
This is what you budgeted for.
And according to our budget here, we had 12 and we added 4. Here they are, Michelle. Here's our notes.
I see, yeah.
So I just want you to know, it
16.
was always
So,
16.
so the 2 vacancies in command are sergeants. So we have 16, it should be 18.
But we have 16.
But they're vacant.
Exactly, there's 2 vacant positions. You were just asking me what the numbers were.
Those are promoted positions.
Correct,
So
but they're currently unfunded. So again, the budget will change when those positions get promoted into that level.
So then you have to leave somewhat of a surplus because if you have 2 types of sergeants and they're, it's going to clear up some of the command officer positions, but you're going to need to, so you can't have $1,000 surplus like the mayor initially offered to the city. $1,061 surplus and you'd have 2 promotions and now you're in the negatives.
Correct.
Okay.
And that's why the budget amendments are necessary on a quarterly basis. And again, that's why
Councilman Saabs.
that's exactly why the budget was $1.9 million over at the beginning of the
Any
budget
idea
season.
when those 2 officers are going to be promoted?
According to the statement that was put out, promotions are on hold indefinitely.
I don't believe that's accurate. There have
So
been
who put the statement out?
promotions.
It's accurate, it's in there.
Okay. Well, again, we'll notify
I
you
don't
as
know.
soon as the
Yeah, let's not
promotions
get in-
come through.
let's not get into that.
We will update you when they get
Thank you.
promoted and ask for a budget amendment then. I just wanted to give you the numbers of where we are today.
I mean, let's find the money somewhere and
So, look, I know we can say right now, Councilman, what was the number, 60,000 in the over?
60.
Because we had to fix, can you give me that number right now?
$61,614. If we amend the budget for that ordinance officer, there'd be another $47,968.
So we'd be closely to
108.
108. That's enough for a command officer.
Yes.
Somebody, a sergeant right here becomes a lieutenant, there we are. It's the only person we can fund right now. These are critical numbers. These numbers are critical.
Right, and when they do change, then,
So why isn't it updated when we do have the changes?
Well, we haven't made any amendments, Councilman.
No, I'm just saying last year's budget, we had so much changes in the police department. Nothing was ever changed.
No, there was a lot of budget amendments.
I understand, but in the end, all the hiring, the contract raises, everything, nothing was put in the budget.
Yes, it was. What do you think? We have an over of $1 million here. You think this
No,
15,
no,
8,
no,
9?
no, I'm not saying from the police department only. But Michelle said after April, she had, or May, which one was it? April or
April.
May?
well, it depends. So the budget became final, presented to you April 1st.
No, that wasn't. We didn't have a meeting April 1st. We had to cancel that meeting because we were not presented with anything
With
properly.
anything properly. So I don't know why they didn't go back and double check anything to come back with the right numbers.
Well, to their respect, Councilman, they had an interim comptroller. Shannon wasn't present with us. Michelle kind of got thrown in all the meetings. So like, we gotta keep it a little respectful to them as well, so.
I I respect to Michelle and Shannon, I'm not by any means throwing this at you, but we pay millions of dollars for this.
Yeah.
And when, I'm sorry, I expect to get accurate numbers. It's not throwing the ball at you or Mariana or anybody, the numbers should be accurate,
I
bottom
mean, you
line.
guys, Michelle, I will agree with council, you guys definitely dropped the ball for somebody that's as big as Plant Moran. I was just at the gym and the girl said, oh, I work for Plant Moran. I said, oh, nice, they ruined our budget.
So, okay, I don't appreciate that type of language with regards to our consultants. All of them are working as hard as they can to.
There's no language.
There's no language, it's the honest truth.
As-
So
as
if
Okay.
Council Chair,
As
So-
Roger says, it's, you
So
know,
let me
this First
just
Amendment right.
clarify one thing. The budget is wrong as soon as the budget is passed, as you can clearly see. And again, it's not wrong, it just needs update. Budgets are a fluid document. It's not wrong, it's not messed up, it's just how budgets work.
It was wrong and it was messed up.
really messed up.
Okay.
Michelle,
Again,
can you agree that it was a wrong budget?
I do not. I agree on April 1st when the budget was presented. And this is what normally happens with municipal budgets. It is presented to council and it even says in the budget, figures as of 3/31. So as soon as we close, we don't like to change the budget because that is our place and time where we do our forecasts.
Even if it's wrong?
It wasn't wrong.
Chair?
Circumstances changed between the time that we
It's okay,
started the
we're not here to
budget.
badger you, and I'm sorry, and you
I
don't have to explain
understand.
yourself, but look,
No.
we can agree to disagree.
Okay.
And then at the end of the day, the administration and Plant Moran Gap, because I'm not gonna say the comptroller's department, I'm not gonna say Shannon, but Shannon, you can see that, you know, the most important part to the city council is a balanced budget. And we were presented with 12 sergeants, but there was, you know, we were presented 50 patrol officers, but really we had 38, and we only needed to budget for, 6 or 7. So like the numbers were, yeah, they were inaccurate. And maybe it wasn't Plant Moran's fault, maybe it was the administration's
It is the
fault.
administration's
You
fault.
know?
I mean, we were
They gave them
presented
the
with a
budget.
1,000
And then-
surplus, and that day, we found out we're like 700 deficit after all the mistakes
And
that
like,
we
and like
fixed.
even, so like you say things like, well, in April, we had passed the TPOAM new budget last year, right? So we're talking in December, remember they stood here and we made a raise so that everybody can get their holiday spending? We stood here, and guess what? Those numbers were still inaccurate.
The TPOAM numbers
Clerk,
were
please.
absolutely accurate. We went through every single one, and every single one of those numbers were
So the-
accurate based on the person's level. So the numbers that you guys were talking about on the 29th were at the highest step. The people who are actually in those positions were at different steps. You have steps at 1, 2, 3, 5 to 8 years, and 8+ years.
Well, actually,
So
what we
the
did was,
numbers-
we actually had Carrie, who was here with us, who told us, no, you have, 3 clerical 3 positions. We had only budgeted 2 for them, right? There were positions where some departments where we said, this person is supposed to have 4, there's currently 4, but we only budgeted 2 for them.
So again,
like-
there's truth in both sides. So
Yeah.
in some departments, again, circumstances changed where certain positions were increased, but the overall numbers by department, Plant Moran and the Comptroller's Office had them by the dot correct. And the changes that we made to those salaries are incorrect in some situations. The amounts, they were wrong in 2 departments, and we did correct them, which included the police records, and because people moved and filled those 2 positions.
didn't we just get 2
But
more
that
from
had
the police
happened less than a month ago, actually. It hasn't even been 2 months since that change happened. So again, they wouldn't have known because those changes had just been filled. So again, but the numbers that she provided with respect to which step they're on, they were correct, and the averages that we did based on the clerical 2 level at the step 8 were inaccurate.
In the past, they used to show, Michelle, step 1, budget, we have 6, we're budgeting for 6. Step 2, we're budgeting for 3. And you know what happened with this new administration? They stopped doing it. They were no longer being transparent on that.
And so we've noticed that. And so going forward, we know that you would like to see clerk 1, clerk 2, clerk 3. And when Shannon does the budget next year, we'll absolutely have that provided.
And keep in mind, even with clerk 1, clerk 2, clerk 3, there's still steps. There's still 8 steps through that. So it will still be an average of what that clerical level makes.
So what do we do with the money that we made a mistake on, that we over budgeted on? Where is it?
You can do a budget amendment if you
Can you give me the number that we mistakenly made then?
We can have that ready for your budget amendment. I have it all in a spreadsheet.
Can you give me what it is?
Oh.
I mean, it's not much because they were like 40, 50 bucks per,
There, I mean, it's, so like, for the treasurer's department, just using them as an example, we budgeted at we budgeted at the right amount per step. When you did the budget, you budgeted for the highest step, that was $10,000 per person. So that's like $40,000 total that you budgeted extra. But if you would like, when we do the budget amendment, we can come up with that number.
well, I want you to tell me, and I'm sure I have it, and maybe the clerk's office can show us. And I'm going to pull up some of those notes that I had. You can pull up what were you budgeted for. I will tell you how many people work in that department, and I will tell you how many people we budgeted, because you know what I did, right?
I can show you the Excel sheet that we prepared with all of the changes that happened. If you want,
Well,
I can
what I want is a
share it.
personnel sheet per department, and I want you to tell me how many steps are in there before we make any budget amendments. I want to know, what treasurer's office, for example.
Yeah, we can do that.
There's, 2 clerical 2s, 2 clerical 3s.
Basically
This
what
is
I
what the new contract pay is. If you add this up, this is what the number is.
That is exactly what
That's
we
what I
had
put
done.
together.
So,
I want it to be as easy as reading a book.
do you want it today, or do you want us to just send it to you later?
If you have it now,
You can show him
But is this with real actual numbers, or is this guesstimates?
based on the contract.
This is based on.
well, I mean, are you saying right now there's 4 clerical 3s, and it's going to show full clerical 3s, or we can say, we're just giving a percentage, kind of like what you did at the last time. We don't want a percentage on overall
We separated
percentage.
them by levels.
Thank you. And if I contact the clerk treasurer's office, she'll be able to tell me, yes, there is that many.
Yeah.
Okay.
Not what's in the contract, what's physically in the office,
People, yes.
personnel.
And again, keep in mind, there are some vacancies in some of these departments too. Alrighty. So,
It's freezing.
sorry and pardon our comments. Again, we all had a little bit of input into this.
Good job, Mariana.
So, all right, so the council members, nothing much changed there. Mayor's office, nothing much changed there. Clerical office, the amount that we put was not in the schedule. It should have been a clerk 3 with 5 to 9 years at 46,946.5. But again, this is the actual number.
And so the first number is what we proposed.
Can you just email me this?
That's why I said, like, do you want it now, or do you want us to just email
No,
it to you?
just
Because it's a
email
lot
it.
of information.
Email it to
So
me,
what we
and then
propose.
I'll go through it, and then, so, I mean, we have 3 weeks before our next meeting, right? So I'm gonna dig deep into that.
Okay. Yep. So the same here, this is what
It's
she was
okay, we
talking
don't-
about in the treasury. These were the actual salaries. This is what we had approved in the budget. So there's that 40,000 difference that we were discussing.
Can you just email this to us? We don't have to go through.
Yep, it's okay.
I know Councilman Saab said he had some questions about, $750,000.
You're gonna chop $750,000 out of the budget some way, somehow.
Did you go through it at all?
I wanna go through, I'm sorry, it's gonna be any consultant firms we have, we're making changes to them.
Well, I mean, I'm asking you. I mean, we're not making any decisions
I
today.
have Grant Moran,
Am I Gap?
Grant Moran Gap, I have Wade Trim.
Okay,
I'd like to see $750,000 from both.
I understand that. What I'm asking, did you at least come up with some type of number to say you're gonna cut it?
Well, so I'm trying to work with administration on which one we need, because we're not gonna be paying an engineering department here and hire a full-time engineering firm that when we said that we're gonna hire an engineer in-house to hire assistants to work with them would be much cheaper than what we're paying, weight trim,
Can we pull up weight trim and all our contractual services?
Yes, so we did prepare for weight trim because I assumed that was what the question was based on the motion. So we did prepare that document.
okay?
I'm just going to share it with them too. Just give me 1 second. Sorry, this is in a different place.
Shannon's like, man, what am I doing here?
We're gonna get Shannon more personnel in her office.
But just as a brief description, as I bring the numbers up, again, weight trim, most of the services associated with that, and I understand that you want to cut the budget, and correct me if I'm wrong, but you want to reduce $750,000 from the general fund, correct?
What's their contract? What are they at a year? What are we paying for them a year? For
From the
services?
general fund, because that is where the question
Yeah.
comes. Most of their expenses don't come from the general fund. Most of the expenses associated with weight trim are actual projects in the highway department and the water department.
Is that why our water bills are so high?
Those are the projects that have been approved. And again, keep in mind that a lot of these are mandated by the state. A big portion of that is our CSOs and their approved contract to do the work for those 3 projects. And now we've approved another
They're
round of them.
Sorry to
So
cut you off. They're contracted for these projects through contracts we awarded them to, correct?
correct,
But they're also a consultant for the city under a contract.
correct.
Or do we get them, right? And how much is their contract for working for the city as a consultant? Not as the contractor overseeing the projects.
I don't know.
So
if we can-
we have a year, you have a 3-year contract, for example. Councilman Saab is asking, what is that number, aside from the money that they're making? Aside from all the other things that we're doing? Can you pull that up in the budget?
I don't think we can separate that per se. Yeah.
What is their contract? Maybe, or.
You can't have, how are they
So
working
it's-
here all year if there was, so CSO project would be, they're funded through that, through what we approve when they come in front of us.
Correct.
But
And each
they're
one of
also
those.
here on other city business, they're a consultant for the engineering department.
Yes, so, okay, so you're looking for the building and engineering department expenses. Alrighty.
Council Chair.
Yes.
I mean, maybe we can ask for that. I understand what Councilman Saab is looking for. Maybe we can also look at past years.
That's what I'm asking.
Oh, I do not have past years, I'm sorry. I just looked at the last
So what's the
year per
last year?
se. So the last year, in general government, we spent 32,713.28. That includes our contract for the grants and all of the grant applications that they have completed for us, which culminated in a lot of grant awards that we have received this year, as well as the building and engineering work that they provide for us.
What is their consultant number in total?
Their consultant number in total is the totals that you see here. It's everything combined,
Do you have a
so.
number of that or no?
120,000, 100.
Hold on, I'm gonna add it up.
That real quick. Yeah, it's close to $1 million. 1.135.
1.135. That's outside of the project, right?
No. This is with the projects. As you can see, major and local streets are in there. Our water is in there. The biggest portion of it is water department, and then you can even see community and economic development
How much
projects.
is our engineer's salary, city engineer?
120.
I believe that's correct, but I can pull that up too. Yep, it is 120.
So wasn't the goal of bringing in the engineer into the city to hire in-house to cut costs and bring more people into work for the city a few years back?
And I believe they have.
Who?
What do you mean, who?
Who else have they hired?
No, they have cut cost. I don't think that they have hired anyone else, but we did go out for bids for an engineering firm because we are aware that you're concerned with the weight trim constantly being the one awarded, so that is coming to council really
So
soon.
why are we going
The-
out for firms when we can hire in-house?
So we don't have an engineering department. If you wanted to build an engineering department like other cities have, that would be extremely costly. And we,
More than $1.1 million a year to have three additional employees?
so even if you had an engineering department in-house, they cannot do the work that I'm confusing that Wade Trim is doing right now. So again, every project needs an actual engineering firm to oversee it. Whether or not you have an engineers in-house, the engineers in-house can do basic city stuff like
So
the
what's our
roads
engineer?
project.
No disrespect to our engineer, I think he's a great guy. Well, what's
So
his
he-
position in the city?
So again, he's supervising some of the smaller projects like the road constructions, the parks constructions, any building improvements. He's building our capital improvement plan. He is the point of contact for a lot of our grants, and he is the one that is creating the projects to Wade Trim to be able to find the information for us to apply and get the money that we're getting. He is finding the best path for the city to successfully have a capital improvement project, which has never been done in our city before, and simply doing work that is necessary in-house.
I think it's hard to say,
No, I'm trying to get to a point. I'm so sorry, Council
Okay, go
Chair.
ahead.
Just one second.
I'm sorry.
So you're saying he's a supervisor, he's supervising these projects. How many supervisors do we have that are engineers in the city?
None, just one.
Who?
Mr. Dibb.
That's not true.
That are engineers.
Yes?
We have one
No.
full-time city engineer.
How many part-times do we have?
We have one field inspector.
Who's our field inspector?
I can't remember his first name. Sak Jamal. It's his nickname. Suhair Jamal, sorry.
Zuhair? I
Yeah.
know one Zuhair, and that's Abdul Haq.
Well, our field inspector is also doing inspections, and he's going out on site and supervising also some of the projects that are happening in
90%
the
of the
city.
job sites I usually see him on, he's on the job sites.
Correct.
Correct? So when you say Mr. Deeb's position is to supervise, that's not true, because he's the city engineer.
He is, and he's the one writing the bids, and he's the one working on the specs, and he's the one telling the field inspector what to look for.
So why can't we hire more engineers in the city to work in the city for the city?
You can build an engineering department like other cities have.
But-
I do not believe it's going to be cheaper than
That-
consulting the work
If I'm
out.
not mistaken, that was the goal when they brought in Mr. Deeb.
And he has. Again, we are no longer using Wade Trim for the zoning department. We're no longer using them for the planning department. We're not paying for those contractual services. Mr. Dibb has taken over those responsibilities. And again, he has, in the 3 short years that we have here, brought more money for larger projects than we've ever seen before. So I think,
I think every
it's been
every
successful.
municipality across the country, seeing that what happened with COVID, has brought in so much money. So I mean, like, to say that, one individual brought in all that money, Canton has saw the most money they've ever seen, the city of Dearborn has saw the most money they've ever seen, Allen Park has seen the most money they've ever seen, Livonia has seen the money that they've ever seen. So to say like, oh, we've brought in the most money that we've ever seen, every single country, I mean, we saw a pandemic, a worldwide pandemic, the whole globe shut down at one point. So to say that, like, Mr. D brought that, I'm gonna have to disagree with you. I believe that the whole, almost every single municipality across Wayne County was awarded a large amount of money. It's how that we spent it, which I have to disagree with on the administration, how we spent it, because Livonia just built a second new recreational company, or recreational inside Livonia. Garden City is working on a new recreational. Inkster is working on a new recreational. I mean, at the end of the day, this is a community, and we look at places like the Richard A. Young Center or the Canfield Center, and they're still so outdated. And I know we don't got the budget for it, and we kicked the can down the road for so many years, and so we had things like the CSO and whatnot. But it was Mr. Deeb that said things like, if I was around and I would have put my foot down with these things, I would have told the state, you guys come and fund it. That's what we did recently. We still went out, we raised our water taxes on our residents, because that's what that last thing that I voted no on was going to increase our water rates to do some more CSO projects, because we ran out of funding to get our new water meters and do the other projects, which we said we were going to get 100% funding, and we ended up getting 50, and now we find out it's 49.
All right, so again, all I'm saying
As far as the
is,
money goes,
in this city,
every city got a hell ton of money.
again, I agree.
Thank you.
In this city, there was no one that could have applied for those positions other than him.
Or we could have had a grant
So
writer. Mr. Jamal brought on a lot of money. Mr. Jamal brought a lot of money, and I'm not going to let anybody in this administration take that away. You agreed to me, I think you said it, Mariana.
He was brought in and he
Thank
did a
you.
tremendous job at
I
finishing
think he
grants
still
that we
is.
had in 2016 that were about to expire, which is the reason why he was brought in the first place. And now he's doing a tremendous job as a CEDD director. But he continues to have the grants that have already historically been there that we need to manage as well. But again, we can't compare ourselves to other cities that have more established departments, more established grant writers, more established engineering departments. We have what we have. And the person in charge of a lot of those projects is Mr. Dib, and he's doing a tremendous job at that as well.
Nobody's
So-
discrediting him for that.
That's all I'm saying.
I agree.
So again, you can bring an engineering department in-house if you choose to do so. I'm just telling you, it's not going to be cheaper
Well, if we
than
don't-
what we currently
Well, if we
have.
don't, we're chopping Wade Trim's budget down tremendously.
So
the
again,
next
a lot of
budget-
these projects are pre-approved. If you want to stop awarding projects for these different areas, we can do that, and you can decline those projects when they come
And then
through.
if not, you're gonna find $750,000 somewhere else in the budget to remove. It's, the purpose of this meeting was that I asked for an additional seven, which we already know the budget is so screwed up still. So I don't even think $750,000 is even gonna make a pinch in it.
So again, I don't think that Wade Trim is the place to look at where to cut
Wade
from
Trim,
the
Plant
budget.
Moran, what other consultant firms we have? This is not discriminating against one party, it's across the board.
So again, I think that our contracted services are very slim. Plant
I
Moran already
asked-
cut as much as they could, as you heard during the budget hearings.
That's how much they were able to cut, it's not what we're able to cut.
Well,
We
if you cut any
decide-
more, they're probably not gonna come back.
Well, then that's fine, we'll find a different firm.
Okay. I mean, regardless, this is a study session, and
Yeah.
council members are entitled to their
And how
statements.
much did
Of
we pay
course.
Plant Moran last year? Not Michelle, Plant Moran.
So last year, you paid us $600,000.
That's for everything in the city you guys did? or-
More than our entire police department.
Well, no, but absolutely. Yeah, that's everything, 100% of everything.
How much have we paid you total since you've been with us?
I don't know off the top of my head.
I can tell you.
Millions.
But I do want to say that when we did the budget, I cut $280,000 off of that. And then when we had our discussion trying to cut more off the budget, we cut another $50,000. So we are trying very hard to transition as much as we can now onto the comptroller's
Right.
office because we do have a comptroller who is permanent.
Can I ask you a question real quick?
Absolutely.
The whole year, so what are you at right now? You said you cut 280 plus 50,
So 330 we
so we're
cut
at
off.
330. Do you remember what our contract was for the year when we first signed up with you guys? Because I can tell you vividly, Riverside Middle School.
I wasn't here, so.
Okay, I will tell you. Pull that contract up for me from Riverside when you get a chance. It was $400,000 a year as well, $412,000 to be exact, because I did these numbers before.
Okay.
And so the fact that we paid you guys 680, which means we've surplused the budget at what we once.
600.
Or whatever, the 600,000, we as the city council approved 412,000 on a 3 or 4 year contract. And we said we were only gonna keep you guys for 90 days, then we extended it for 180. Remember, we went back and forth with Gary Miyake on what, if somebody slipped and fell here, you'd have to have your own liability insurance. Brian showed up to the meeting, he had his backpack. I can tell you this thing vividly. Moral of my story is, we agreed to 412, you guys went up to 600, you cut it down to 380, the real number was 412. So like, you didn't really do much. We actually outpaid you guys more than what we should have given you guys. And I don't mean to be rude, Michelle, and you know how much I honor you and respect you. And look, don't get it twisted. Plant Moran Gap is the best accounting firm in the country, globally. But the agreement was 412, you took 600, you cut some down. Really, you still got your money back. You still agree, the contract was 412, and you were supposed to have 3-4 people here that was supposed to help us out. And I think a year max, you guys were supposed to be here. Look, I get it, you know, we're closing down accounts, you know, we're doing pull accounts, there's a million things that you guys are doing for us. But as you said, Shannon is here now, she's got experience in municipal, accounting. I think she's got her CPA degree, is that correct? No one got a CPA degree? All right.
Don't call me out. Don't call me out.
I'm sorry, I didn't know, I thought you did, honestly. I think the mayor told me that you did, but that was off the record. But either way, I hope that you do get it soon.
The experience what matters.
And the experience ultimately is what matters. And I'm sorry, Shannon, I was not trying to call you out. I promise you. I know you're kidding, but that was not my intention. Or to Michelle, or to Mariana, or to our HR director, like, look, guys, we respect you guys. And Mariana earlier said like, oh, well, people have like these great departments. Mariana, let me make something clear. We have the best department. We don't have a chief of staff like Mariana. I can tell you, no city does, and I honor you and I respect you for that. But the truth of the matter is, the taxpayers are the ones that are suffering right now, and our job is, when we ran, to be fiscally responsible. And right now, we're not being fiscally responsible. Being the fact that we have a budget that potentially is only over today at $60,000 when we told the residents 177. And really, I'm extremely disappointed. And Michelle, I have to say it, that you guys didn't show up here during our most important meeting, which was passing that budget on June 28th. It wasn't the 29th, but it was June 28th. That was the most important day of the city's. I mean, we made citywide headline news. I opened up Yahoo News and it was a picture of myself and the mayor. And so for Plant Morangap to not be here, really, like, it's a disservice to the city. It's a disservice to the residents. And I'm not chewing you up on this. I'm just letting you know that it was hurtful because we pay you guys so much money. That's like Wade Trim not showing up to a job that's, needing their services. We needed your services that day. And thank you to Max Beydoun and to Mariana for stepping up to the plate and really taking on that role because we needed them. So thank you guys for bringing your budget back to where you guys needed to be, because the total number was 412,000, if I'm not mistaken. But I'll have, yeah. What is it? Yeah, you'll get that over to me. Thank you. Any other questions? This wasn't a badgering session either, Michelle. I don't want you to think that. Really, like, we thought, like, you came in here, you said $177,000 budget pass, surplus. We don't have that. We also said that we budgeted for 4 additional,
Sergeants.
or not sergeants,
Ordnance
ordinance officers. We didn't budget for 4 additional ones. I can assure you we didn't. So overall, this meeting was just to get a better understanding of where our budget stands. Councilman Saab, I'm gonna have to say to you, if you wanna see a $750,000 budget, in order for you to get me to agree with you on that, you're gonna have to do your own analysis and figure out where that needs to come through. And I think it has to be convincing to say, here, cut out $750,000. We can't just get up one day and say, hey, today I feel like the administration's gotta cut. And this is just speaking for myself. You may be able to get 4 other council members that agree with you, and but for me, numbers don't lie. You gotta show me where you're gonna cut that $750,000.
Right, but also numbers don't lie, the budget isn't accurate.
Well, to what we understand right now, you're right. It wasn't 100. I just said that to them.
No, correct. So, again, like I said, even if we take the $750,000 off across departments, a budget, if the $700,000 does not even show, that's gonna be a surplus because the budget is still off.
And I think also we need to keep in mind, we want to give as much as we can to the police department. We also gave the, command officers, or we gave everybody a raise this year. And so that's where you're seeing the increased spike of $1 million. So, if there were certain things that were taken away, like let's just say we kept the FOIA coordinator and the crime analysis and the additional position, right? The 3 positions we took away. Guys, we would be in a deficit again. And we can't keep using from our reserves to pay these deficits, because guess what we're gonna do? We're just gonna milk all of our deficits, our rainy day fund. So that's not the answer. So I think what the councilman is saying is, help us give you guys back these positions. Whether they're illegally put there or not, we know we can't afford them. And so if that means the lieutenant is doing those positions, we don't want a lieutenant, we don't want to take away from somebody that served our city for so long, that went through the rankings and became a lieutenant, and say, hey, go do this paperwork or go do this. We don't want that for the lieutenant.
Council Chair.
Clearly, we can't afford it.
And I think that we're all on the same page, right? Like we're all trying to do the same thing. It is a tough budget. It is limited. We're trying to do all these improvements. We're trying to build extra funding in there that we can put into our reserves to actually address the capital improvements that are necessary in all of our buildings. And again, the city was stuck with a lot of, unfortunately, under budgeted salaries, and those changes that happened this past couple of years needed to happen because we were so underpaid for all of the positions in the city. We're still not at the greatest point. Like many of you have mentioned, we want to be paying top salary to have the best candidates. We're not quite there yet, but we're working towards it. And it's unfortunately, it's a tough budget, and we all have to work together on making sure that we are prioritizing the areas that are necessary in our city. But it is a tough budget, and we're going to have to make cuts in certain areas every year and every budget like we always have.
Thank you.
Thank
Council
you.
Chair?
Yes.
Let's not forget, we just approved a new agreement with the fire union, so
Well,
this
that was in
is,
This was in this budget.
was it?
That
No,
was-
not the new numbers.
Yes, Michelle told me that it was.
Yeah, there was an increase built into the new budget
So
to
does that
account
cover
for.
everything?
That accounts for the wages that are going to be in effect July 1st.
Can we make sure that it's going to cover?
I did not have a copy of the contract at the
Okay.
time. I still don't have a copy of the
Okay,
contract.
let's
but-
please get a copy to Michelle and make sure the numbers are accurate.
Yeah, we believe that it was pretty close, so we should be
Just to be on
good
the
with
safe
that.
side, I mean, the budget is pretty close too, so.
Yeah.
You know, if we're off by 60,000, we no longer have a surplus of 60,000.
Yeah, so,
Any other questions? Yes, ma'am.
I'd like to do anything we can. I apologize. I just got out of the dentist, I'm still bleeding.
I made an announcement that you were in.
Okay. We've got to do whatever we can to get us a FOIA coordinator to put the officer that's now doing that job back on.
Did you hear what we just stated? If we can't even afford it.
I know, but we've got to find a way.
You-
You have money?
I'll get some.
Okay, perfect.
We'll make calendars.
That's a good idea. I mean, and I think the good thing is what Police Chief Swope said to me, like, if we start being able to, you know, with more enforcements and not to make money, but more enforcements for safety, then we're going to start seeing a little influx in money that we can potentially put back into our police department, and so that we can now allow, you know, our traffic division, and we can allow things for like our a FOIA coordinator and things of that nature. But again, we have to find, you know, a balance in there, and what happens if everybody starts following the rules, right? Not to say that, you know, we would love that, but I don't think that's going to happen. And I think, you know, Chief is kind of going on the right direction when he says things like, hey, we're going to start making sure that we're enforcing things a lot harder, which means that we're going to start seeing an influx of more cash flow, only because people are breaking the rules, not because, and to enforce rules for safety, not for funding reasons. And he was very adamant on stating, like, we're doing this to better our safety, and if there's more money that comes with it, great, we'll use that money for the police department, and I'm okay with that.
Thank you. Yeah, I agree. So just in conclusion, can we get some guidance as to what you would like to see next? So we're going to share the numbers that I showed today with you. For the next council meeting, did you want to see any budget amendments?
Well, yeah, take away the one position on the ordinance officer so that there's 8, because we only want to approve for additional 3. So that would be 44,000, or 47,000, I'm sorry.
taken out.
I'm gonna go through the clerical positions. I'd like to see where they're at, how much we over budgeted. You know, and I'd like to see what they were last year, what the new contract was. Again, I want to be able to read it like a book, please. And so it's basically, last year, this is what they got because this is what the budget was. This is what they got paid because this is where they're at. This is how many for each department. And I don't want an estimate from April. So if that means the chief of staff, you have to work a little harder and get a breakdown with Carrie or the clerk or the treasurer or every department or our comptroller, please do so. Or HR, there's the answer. I'm just basically saying, like, let's work as a family, let's all work together on this.
Council Chair?
No, don't forget about the dispatch position too.
Yes. I was gonna.
The 9.5 or the 12?
10.
10? Oh, sorry. Yes.
That Mariana, can you also send me a list of all current contractual services with the city?
The clerk might be a better person for that. A
Or the
list of
most-
all contractual
The
services with the
most current
city.
list of all, not a list of who does services, of what's open and what we're paying them year.
The clerk
I
is
don't know
the
if the
keeper
clerk is gonna
of,
be able to get you that. I mean, that's not the clerk's role.
so,
Yeah. so
but
it-
most contracts are, okay, it's okay, I'll work with it, because most contracts are kept with her. I'm going to need them from her to build a list for you with that level of detail.
So right now, just so, example, so anything we have across the city, projects being done, services being performed by firms, you don't keep record of that? They, as we make payments and draws?
We do to a certain
Do you
extent,
have that list?
yes.
Can you email that list to me?
It's not in a list format.
You'd have to dissect it from the
Yeah.
IT's in-house.
Right, but I'm sure there are contract services, you know, in there, I'm sure we contract out.
Well, yeah, we do, like,
Copier
that does our
repair.
websites, for example.
Yeah.
Contractual services.
So, you know.
I want everything.
So with that dispatch, how does it work if we making it 10 now? We're gonna have, instead of having half, we're gonna have one full-time extra? That's gonna make a difference too, in the numbers.
So let's just do 9.5 then.
No,
Yeah, because we already have that part-time at the half, so,
Okay,
yeah, we could
so
potentially.
let's keep it 9.5. That's what we're, keep it 9.5.
Okay.
Yeah. It's gonna make a difference if it goes full-time. All right? Thank you, everyone.
Any other questions from any other council members? Michelle, any comments, any statements? Shannon, anything from you? We're gonna move it over to the public. I'm gonna open it up now from comments from the public.
Good evening. Zohair Abdelhaq, Rosemary. First, the contract for the fire department, it's retroactive. Did you guys budgeted for the increase in salaries for last year?
He doesn't even have the copy of the contract, so that's what they're working on.
Okay, I think you should have the contract and you should know the number because it is my belief. I asked the union representative and he said it's retroactive, which means the city is under obligation to pay the difference in salary for the last year. The second thing, I like to give credit to people who worked on getting some grants. Mr. Hoffman, he's the one who worked on, I don't know if you know who he is.
Yeah, he works in.
I think he got around $50,000 to write a grant, which we applied for. So he's the person who we should probably hire him as a part-time because he's knowledgeable about how to write grants. Nobody else in the city. Or hire somebody full-time and he gets probably portion as allowed by law from whatever he brings to the city. I look at other cities, how much money they bring in, and I look what we bring to this city here. We can get a lot more if we get, the right person. I don't want to blame anybody. So the federal guidelines for hiring contractors in the United States is 5 years. We have a Plant Moran and Waitrim for good 20 years. Nothing against them. I think they're doing a good job, but it would be in the benefit of the resident and benefit of the city. If we put it out for bid, we might get better prices, and I'm sure we will get better prices if we go out. So good luck to you, and thank you for what you're doing. I have learned so much from you guys in details about the budget, lots of things I didn't know before. Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other comments from anybody in the public? Anyone on Zoom? Anyone on Zoom? All right, seeing none. Meeting's over. Thank you, guys. Thank you, Michelle. Thank you, Plummer and Gap. Thank you, Shannon. Thank you, Mariana. And thank you, Cameron.